At the start of the story of Abram in the book of Genesis, something really surprising happens. Right when Abram should be expecting blessing and good fortune, life slaps him down. But I want to start with a different story, one that happened thousands of years later, but is a striking echo of Abram's experience. In September of 1620, 102 people set sail for America from Plymouth, England, aboard a ship called Mayflower. They wanted to establish a new community where they could practice their faith freely. They believed that they were following God, that they were being called to build something sacred. But things began to go wrong almost immediately. After 66 days, they landed at Cape Cod Bay, but not where they had planned. They moved ashore in December, but it was too late to plant crops. Within 3 months, about half of the colonists had died from the cold, from scurvy, pneumonia, and infection. That winter, they buried spouses, they lost children, entire families died before spring. Their leaders wrote of grief and confusion. Had they misunderstood God's call? The promise that they believed in only brought loss, and there was silence from God. Somehow, I think that the passage from Genesis that I'm carving in this video might have given them a little comfort that first terrible winter on the shores of the Atlantic, because their experience echoes the beginning of the story of Abram in Genesis chapter 12. What happens in Abram's story isn't just surprising, it reveals a path to keep moving forward even when everything else falls apart. Welcome to Carving the Bible. My name is Francisco, and I'm carving the Bible word for word into granite. And as I carve, I reflect on the passages I'm working on. In this video, I'm working on Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 12. Let me read you the text so you can see what I'm talking about. And the Lord said to Abram, "Go out of your land and from your kindred and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation and bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse him that curses you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed." And Abram departed as the Lord had said to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had acquired, and the souls that they had obtained in Haran, and they went out to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "Unto your seed will I give this land." And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. And he removed thence towards the mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel towards the west, and Ai toward the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and called on the name of the Lord. And Abram moved onward, going on still toward the south. And there was famine in the land. And Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, "Behold now, I know that you are a woman fair to look upon. And it will come to pass when the Egyptians see you, they will say, She is his wife, and they will slay me and save you alive." Verse 1 is the first time in the story that God speaks directly to Abram. He tells him to leave his land, to leave his clan and his father's house, just like the pilgrims leaving their homeland. Abram is given a promise about the future. "And I will make you a great nation, and bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing." So Abram goes. He brings his family and belongings and travels to Canaan. And again in verse 7 the promise is confirmed. "And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, Unto your seed will I give this land." But then, just 3 verses later, everything turns upside down. "And there was famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land." Wait, what? That's one sudden turn of events. What happened to the promise? Abram follows the call. He receives a promise, arrives in the land, and then immediately has to leave. No explanation, just famine and silence from God. Most of us will be hit with disaster sometime in our lives. We experience poverty, depression, natural disasters. We have accidents, get sick, lose jobs. The list goes on and on. Sometimes it happens even when we think we're doing everything right, even when we expect a blessing. So, what's going on here? Why was this story of Abram written this way? I think the answer has a lot to do with when the story was finalized, most likely during or shortly after the Judeans returned from exile in Babylon. This was a pivotal moment in their history. For about 50 years, many of Judah's leaders and skilled workers had been held captive in Babylon. But in 539 BCE, Babylon fell to the Persians, and the captives were allowed to return home. It should have been a triumph, a return to Zion to regain their kingdom. But that's not what they found. Instead of a homeland ready to receive them, they found rubble, strangers living on the land, a ruined temple, and a city in shambles. The restored kingdom that they had imagined was instead a broken province under Persian control. And many of the returnees from Babylon were poor. In Nehemiah chapter 5, we hear their voices. We are mortgaging our fields, our vineyards, and our houses to get grain because of the famine. Famine again, just like Abram in Genesis 12:10. The return wasn't easy. It was a struggle and a test for endurance. The rebuilding of the temple took more than 20 years. The people had to ask, is God really with us? Why did we come back to ruins, to struggle and famine? The start of the story of Abram, probably finalized at that time, reflects those experiences and feelings. And the silence from God is part of that story. That silence is something that the pilgrims also would have known. When they buried their families that first winter, they must have asked, is God with us? Here's what Genesis 12 suggests. When the promise doesn't come in the form we expect, when this promise leads into pain, the only path forward is to persevere. The Judeans rebuilt Jerusalem and the temple. The pilgrims endured. And Abram, he took his own steps and went to Egypt. And because of that, we still remember his name.